This NBA offseason has been crazy so far, starting with the Atlanta Hawks, who made some very interesting moves to shake up their roster this offseason. Rather than making a splash in free agency, the Hawks executed calculated moves to reshape their roster. The notable departure of John Collins, who was traded to the Utah Jazz for Rudy Gay and a second-round pick, stirred discussions about trade wisdoms considering Collins' potential and contributions. In another trade, the Hawks acquired Ty Washington and Usman Garuba, along with the draft considerations from the Houston Rockets, balancing immediate needs with long-term planning. The Hawks secured guard Wesley Matthews, a veteran presence, and welcomed draft picks like Kobe Buffkin, Mo Gay, and Seth Lundy to fortify their future prospects. The overarching goal was to enhance perimeter shooting and defense, necessitated by Collins' departure. The success of this approach relies on players like Trae Young regaining peak form, young talent stepping up, and the strategic acumen of head coach Quinn Snyder. The offseason's impact remains nuanced, with varying opinions on the wisdom of the moves. While some applaud the forward-looking strategy, others express concerns about letting go the established players. As the season unfolds, the true ramifications will come to light, underscoring the delicate balance between immediate competitiveness and long-term vision in the dynamic landscape of the NBA. So overall, I give the Hawks offseason a C. Next up is the Boston Celtics, who look to make some risky moves this summer by trading key pieces to their roster, but definitely put themselves in conversation for winners of the offseason. A notable highlight was their involvement in a pre-draft 3-team trade, resulting in the acquisition of Kristaps Porzingis from the Washington Wizards. However, this came at the cost of parting ways with longtime Celtic Marcus Smart, who embodied leadership and defensive prowess. The departure of Smart, along with Grant Williams, Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala, marked a shift in the team's composition. Porzingis' arrival injected a new dynamic combining rim protection and outside shooting, yet concerns arose about his compatibility with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The signings of O'Shea Brissett, Delano Banton, and the drafting of Jordan Walsh aimed to enhance defensive versatility and perimeter playmaking, aligning with modern NBA trends. Brissett's potential impact on both ends of the court underscored strategic intentions. A pivotal moment was Jaylen Brown's landmark extension, cementing his role in the team's future. While generating optimism, the offseason move sparked debates about their effectiveness in the competitive landscape. As the Celtics navigate these changes, their narrative reflects calculated risks, evolving dynamics, and an ongoing pursuit of Eastern Conference prominence. So overall, I give the Celtics a B. The Brooklyn Nets got pretty busy this offseason, making several moves to reshape their roster. In the draft, they selected Dariq Whitehead, Noah Clowney, and Jalen Wilson, bolstering their depth and positional options. Whitehead, a high upside prospect recovering from injury, brings versatility to their wing position. Clowney, a strong defensive presence, offers potential as a stretch big and backup to Nick Claxton. Wilson, acquired through a two-way contract, adds depth and athleticism. In free agency, the Nets re-signed Cam Johnson to a significant deal, addressing shooting and wing play following departures. They also signed Lonnie Walker, Dennis Smith Jr., and Darius Bazley, aiming to add youth and potential in the backcourt. Notable losses include Joe Harris, Seth Curry, and Patty Mills, impacting the shooting. While the Nets pursued a more conventional team-building approach post the super team era, questions remain about the health and performance of Ben Simmons. Despite some uncertainty, the Nets made strides in enhancing their roster's depth and potential, focusing on younger talents and athleticism, while also trading salary to clear cap space was a notable feature. Although on-court improvement wasn't a central aspect of these transactions, overall, Brooklyn's offseason efforts aimed to strike a balance between immediate impact and future potential while navigating the competitive landscape of the Eastern Conference. So overall, the Nets get a C+. The Charlotte Hornets underwent significant changes during the offseason, making several key moves that reshaped their team. They welcomed back familiar faces like Miles Bridges, but they also introduced new prospects like Amari Bailey, Brandon Miller, and Nick Smith Jr., while parting ways with Dennis Smith Jr. and leaving Kelly Oubre on the free agency market. The decision to opt for Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson in the draft was a focal point of the offseason, reflecting the team's emphasis on immediate on-court chemistry and sparking discussions about how the long-term potential of their choices. Central to their offseason narrative was the extension of LaMelo Ball's contract, a pivotal move that underscored the Hornets' commitment to him as a cornerstone player. Despite this, the return of Miles Bridges was marked by complexities due to off-court concerns, raising debates about risk evaluation and second chances. Throughout these strategic maneuvers, the Hornets demonstrated their concerted efforts to enhance offensive capabilities and establish a foundation around pivotal figures like Ball and Bridges. However, these decisions also brought forth a critical discourse on managing potential uncertainties and ethical considerations. As the dust settled on their transformative offseason, The Hornets now stand at the cusp of a new chapter, armed with a reconfigured roster and the optimism that their offseason endeavors will chart a promising trajectory forward. So with controversy about letting Dennis Smith Jr. and potentially Kelly Oubre walk in free agency and drafting for fit instead of best player available in Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson, which history shows us doesn't work, the Hornets get a C-. The Chicago Bulls made a few small moves during the offseason, and to keep it simple, with the position they're in now, that's not good. The acquisitions of Javon Carter and Torrey Craig were strategic steps to fortify the wing depth, infuse playmaking into the point guard role, and amplify their proficiency in three-point shooting. Concurrently, the re-signing of Kobe White highlighted the organization's belief in his potential, solidifying his role within the team's framework. A pivotal move was the extension of Nikola Vucevic's contract, underlining the Bulls' intent to maintain his inside-out scoring and floor spacing prowess, which also shows that they could potentially not be heading in a rebuild anytime soon. However, skepticism lingers as critics argue that these incremental improvements reflect a broader acceptance of mediocrity, with some voicing concerns about the team's ambition to compete at the highest level. The decision to maintain an aging core featuring players like Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan has fueled debate over whether the offseason changes are sufficient to propel the Bulls into a legitimate contender. While these offseason maneuvers undoubtedly added depth and stability, the discourse surrounding the team's direction underscores the notion that bolder transformative steps might be needed to truly elevate the Bulls' status into the league hierarchy. So all in all, I give the Bulls a D for this offseason. The Cleveland Cavaliers had an active offseason though, with a focus on improving their roster's shooting and supporting their star players. They added a shooting talent by signing Max Strus and Georges Niang for a combined $90 million, along with Ty Jerome on a smaller deal. These moves aimed to address their previous lack of three-point prowess, ranking 19th in three-point makes and 24th in the attempts. The Cavs also secured Emoni Bates on a two-way contract and acquired Damian Jones through a trade with Utah. They re-signed Caris LeVert to a 2-year, $36 million contract and engaged in a 3-team deal, sending away players like Cedi Osman, Lamar Stevens, and draft considerations to acquire Max Strus from Miami in exchange for a 4-year, $63 million contract. The addition of Strus and Niang enhances their offensive capabilities, while the presence of Evan Mobley provides defensive flexibility. Despite the mixed opinions on some transactions, including the perceived overpayment for LeVert and Strus, the Cavaliers' active reshaping of their roster and focus on addressing key needs point towards a promising outlook for the upcoming season. It's expected that the Cavs don't make too many moves, as their roster is pretty top-heavy as it is, so overall, the Cavaliers get a B-. The Pistons look to only make positive gains this offseason. They decided to take on contracts for experienced players like Joe Harris and Monty Morris to get better at shooting from the outside. This decision led to talks about whether the team's lineup might become uneven. The Pistons kept their focus on helping their young core grow and develop with top talents like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren, leading the way for the future success. They also added a really high upside pick in Asar Thompson through the NBA draft, bringing a promising new player, while Bojan Bogdanovic, a seasoned pro, was re-signed to bring his experience and leadership. Alongside these plans, the Pistons also made sure to extend Isaiah Stewart's contract, showing their trust in his potential to make a difference. At the same time, the team chose to part ways with players like Corey Joseph, making space for future plans. The team's approach, which involves many different strategies, aims to help their young players shine, with the extra addition of Marcus Sasser contributing to their gradual progress toward becoming a stronger team down the road. Even though they might face challenges with spacing on the court, they're determined to keep growing and get competitive and look to have a much more improved roster from last year, giving the Pistons a B+. During the Indiana Pacers' eventful offseason, they navigated the Bruce Brown situation, leveraging their ample cap space to secure him, with an upfront high salary contract, cleverly structured with a team option for a second year, thus providing future flexibility while ensuring his presence. Additionally, the Pacers executed a shrewd trade, acquiring Obi Toppin from the Knicks in exchange for a nominal price of 2 second-round picks, recognizing his untapped offensive potential that was stifled in his previous role. In a calculated move, the team opted to part ways with Chris Duarte, a decision that was influenced by their surplus of offensive guards. To fortify their lineup, they strategically drafted Jarris Walker, a defensive-minded power forward with the potential to be a significant asset on both ends of the court. Furthermore, by locking in Tyrese Haliburton with a contract extension, the Pacers solidified his role as a cornerstone player and face of the franchise, showcasing their commitment to his growth and team's future success. These calculated maneuvers and additions, while bidding farewell to some players, have positioned the Pacers as a rising force in the Eastern Conference, poised to make a notable impact in the upcoming season, and potentially embark on a promising playoff journey. giving the Pacers an A. Miami Heat's offseason has seen a mix of ups and downs. They lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus in free agency, but the Heat are skilled at nurturing new talent. An impressive move was bringing back Josh Richardson, previously traded for Jimmy Butler, proving shrewd business. They also acquired Thomas Bryant, a promising offensive player, when paired with perimeter playmakers, while shedding Victor Oladipo to aid luxury tax concerns. The most significant development is Damian Lillard expressing a desire to join the Heat, potentially a game changer. However, the Lillard trade remains uncertain, leaving the Heat's roster and prospects in limbo. If they succeed in acquiring Lillard, the losses of Vincent and Strus may be mitigated. Otherwise, the Heat's offseason outcomes appear precarious, even though they made solid signings of Richardson, Bryant, and the drafting of Jaime Jaquez Jr. As of now, the Heat remain incomplete with the team's future direction, hinging on Lillard, but with no move looking to happen anytime soon, and the substantial losses the Heat endured, they get a D grade. Retention was the main focus for the Milwaukee Bucks this offseason, which they managed by re-signing Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton. Despite a disappointing playoff exit, their priority was to maintain a strong supporting cast around Giannis Antetokounmpo. They also made an underrated signing in Malik Beasley to boost bench strength and three-point shooting. The Bucks picked up two rookies in Chris Livingston and Andre Jackson Jr., which are two-way players who can grow into valuable role players for the Bucks. Notable losses include Joe Ingles and Javon Carter. The team's health remains a concern, but when their core players are on the court, they have shown championship-level performance. The Bucks' biggest offseason move was replacing coach Mike Budenholzer with Adrian Griffin, emphasizing continuity and change. Their roster adjustments and coaching shift will determine their success in the upcoming season. So overall, I'll give the Bucks a C+. The New York Knicks made strategic moves to fortify their roster following an encouraging playoff journey. In a bid to bolster their depth on the wing and address shooting deficiencies exposed during the postseason, the Knicks orchestrated the acquisition of Dante DiVincenzo, a versatile guard known for his defensive prowess and outside shooting. Simultaneously, they secured the services of Josh Hart through a contract extension, ensuring the retention of a vital piece in their rotation. While the decision to trade Obi Toppin, a promising prospect, may have raised eyebrows, it was a calculated maneuver aimed at maximizing the team's flexibility and paving the way for future acquisitions. Beyond these pivotal transactions, the Knicks also engaged in prudent roster management by signing promising two-way players including DiVincenzo and Hart's former Villanova teammate, contributing to the cultivation of a well-rounded and competitive lineup poised for a continued success in the Eastern Conference. The franchise's ability to balance immediate needs with long-term prospects sets the stage for a potential ascent to championship contention in the coming seasons, with the offseason moves positioning them favorably for both short-term competitiveness and the pursuit of transformative star additions, which gives the Knicks a B-. The Orlando Magic's offseason wasn't much different, as they looked to boost their roster through the draft as well. While there was an opportunity to acquire a significant player, the team opted for cautious moves, allocating cap space to secure Joe Ingles and retain Mo Wagner. These acquisitions address the team's need for shooting, and they prioritize long-term development, given that prospects like Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Suggs remain on rookie contracts for another year. The draft brought in Anthony Black and Jet Howard, contributing to the team's youthful core, with Black potentially becoming a solution at point guard. Notably, the Magic didn't make any major free agent signings and were conservative in their approach, acknowledging the value of nurturing their existing talents like Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. Despite not making flashy moves, their strategy is aimed at future gains. The Magic's offseason was marked by restraint and a focus of internal growth, maintaining continuity within their young roster. But with the lack of any moves to really make this team a formidable threat in the season, the Magic get a C. Philadelphia 76ers had an uncertain offseason, as they aimed to maintain flexibility for potential James Harden and Damian Lillard trades. They allowed Georges Niang and Jalen McDaniels to depart, but focused on retaining flexibility. Re-signing backup center Paul Reed was still pending, while Patrick Beverley's signing adds 3-and-D depth to the bench. Despite a Harden trade request, the team opted to keep him, potentially affecting MVP Joel Embiid's future. The acquisition of Patrick Beverley, Mo Bamba, and other potential additions in a Harden trade might not compensate for possible losses. The Sixers' strategy to create max salary slots next summer hinges on Harden's future. The pressure is on Daryl Morey to build a winning team around Embiid, considering the uncertain situation. And with James Harden calling Daryl Morey a liar, tensions within the organization are really starting to heat up. In terms of signing though, they acquired Patrick Beverley and Mo Bamba, while retaining Paul Reed and adding undrafted free agents in Terquavion Smith and Ricky Council on two-way contracts. Overall, The Sixers' offseason moves left some uncertainty around their roster's competitiveness and their ability to assemble a winning team around their stars. And as they enter the training camp with a disgruntled James Harden and a not-so-improved roster, the Sixers get a D. The Toronto Raptors had by far the most disappointing offseason this summer. They turned down offers for Kyle Lowry, leading to the departure of Fred VanVleet to the Houston Rockets and raising concerns about their asset management. While they managed to re-sign Jakob Poeltl and draft Grady Dick, the team's future remains uncertain, with rumors of a potential Pascal Siakam trade looming. Adding Dennis Schroeder and Jalen McDaniels brought some value, but Schroeder's role as a starting point guard and his inconsistent shooting brings up real questions. The team's path forward appears unclear, and their decision to not trade VanVleet earlier and the ongoing Siakam trade discussions raise doubts about their strategy. Overall, the Raptors face challenges in rebuilding and addressing shot creation and shot-making issues, with Grady Dick underperforming in Summer League, making the offseason outcome somewhat disappointing. This gives the Raptors an F this offseason. In a transformative offseason, the Washington Wizards embarked on a deliberate rebuilding journey. The pivotal decision to trade Bradley Beal to the Phoenix Suns marked the initiation of a new era for the team. Concurrently, they strategically acquired Jordan Poole from the Golden State Warriors and selected Bilal Coulibaly in the draft, infusing their roster with youthful potential. Surprisingly, they opted to retain Kyle Kuzma, possibly as a valuable trade asset down the line. The departure of Kristaps Porzingis and Chris Paul led to the acquisition of Tyus Jones and Jordan Poole, bolstering the team's future prospects. Amidst these changes, the Wizards also demonstrated their commitment to developing emerging talents, as highlighted by the signings of Jared Butler, Eugene Amori, and Bilal Coulibaly. Although the loss of Beal and Porzingis was significant, the Wizards now have a direction in which they can follow to rebuild for years to come, while also gaining some nice young proven talents in Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones, which gives Washington a B this offseason.